Hey all you tricksters, welcome back to the channel. We got another great deal video for today. Lots of solid indie game choices. Let's jump right into the video so I can talk to you about them. Alright, so my first recommendation comes from Team 17, and it is The Survivalists. The Survivalists, of course, comes from the same developers as The Escapist. In fairly typical fashion for many survival games, you're dropped on a jungle island, out to fend for yourself, but you've got help though. The best aspect of this game, in my opinion, are the monkey helpers. Slowly over the game, you gain more and more of these monkey helpers, and what's really cool about them is they basically are programmable. So you can program some of these helpers to be working on your base, you could program some of them to go out and collect supplies, you can program some of them to simply walk along with you and be someone who helps defend you from enemies or to carry items for you. It's a very charming and low-stress sort of survival game. I think the art aesthetic really kind of sells that this isn't going to be your high-stress sort of survival game. But what makes it even better is that it does have co-op both offline and online for up to 4 players. So that really would even more so alleviate a lot of the time investment when you can bring along people to help you build your settlement and hurry things along a bit more in that way. I really enjoyed this game. I actually filmed it a long time ago for a quick look. That didn't really turn out very well because it is sort of a slow burn, as all survival games are. But if you're willing to put the time in, I think there's a lot to enjoy here. And The Survivalist currently matches its lowest price ever at 75% off for $6.24. Alright, so 11-Bit Studios has a big sale on all their games, but I'm going to focus just on the two best games that I think that they've made. Alright, so the first game I'm going to focus on is Moonlighter. I think a lot of people are already probably familiar with Moonlighter, a bit of a more recent critical hit. But if you're not familiar with it, it is a Zelda-style roguelike. You play the manager of a shop in a little town, and you are diving into these dungeons, collecting all kinds of resources and fun little items that you can sell in your store. So the biggest portion of the game is diving into the dungeons, taking on all the baddies, big bosses, collecting all this great loot. But there is a decently significant portion of the game that is about managing your shop, opening up the shop, setting prices, having customers come in, making sure that they're happy, also being on the lookout for things like thieves that are trying to steal your goods. It's super charming, definitely one of my favorite Switch games since it's come out. And that is at its absolute lowest price ever for 80% off for $4.99. So at $5, just an insane deal. It's absolutely worth full price, so definitely at that price, I think you should not pass this up if you don't have it already. All right, and their other title that I want to focus on is Children of Morta. Children of Morta is actually my favorite out of these two titles. It is an action hack and slash roguelike. I know roguelikes are very plentiful on the Switch, but I think that this is one of the top tier ones. This is especially a good roguelike if you've never played that type of genre and you're looking to finally dip your toes into it. The combat is immediately understandable, accessible. It actually has a really good story that follows this family that is taking on this infection that's taking over the land. So slowly over time, you start unlocking all these characters, and they all have very unique fighting styles. So there's a way for you to play the game no matter how you want to play it. If you want to play more up-close combat, if you want to play more fast and quick, even ranged combat is definitely a possibility with some of the characters. And each character has a big skill tree with lots of unlockable moves and other perks. Even though this game has gotten a fairly good amount of buzz, I still think that it's underrated. I think it should be considered one of the absolute best roguelikes on the Nintendo Switch. And it is also currently at its lowest price ever, 70% off for $6.59. Absolute steal at that price. This is another game that I bought at full price, zero regrets. This price, it's an insane deal. You absolutely should jump on this one. All right, so my next suggestion is Tiny Metal. My main reason for recommending this is a sort of a consolation prize, or maybe a way to smooth over some of the pain of the fact that Advance Wars got delayed again. I understand why they delayed Advance Wars. If you're not familiar with the game, it does have a faction in it that is obviously meant to emulate Russia, and that country in the game is invading another country. So it is bad timing for it. I get why they delayed it, but it sucks. I hate that they've delayed it. But Tiny Metal is a good Advance Wars clone. I don't think it's as good as Advance Wars by any stretch of the means, but I think it is very decent. And it is currently matching its lowest price ever, 50% off for $7.49. All right, in my last video for $2 deals, I talked about the Bug Butcher. This time, I'm going to talk to you about Knights and Guns. The reason I'm comparing them is because they are both a play on the old arcade game Super Pang. If you're not familiar with Super Pang, that was the game where you would run around and you would shoot upwards at bubbles, bursting them into more little bubbles. This is that same concept, except you are medieval knights who are taking on aliens that have invaded your world. It's super over the top, crazy action, but immediately accessible. You immediately understand what you need to do. You got to run right and left using all kinds of crazy weapons, busting up aliens and monsters. It's great, simple arcade action fun with a really beautiful coat of paint. And it is currently at its lowest price ever for 80% off for $2.99, a total impulse buy if you want it. All right, the next game I'm going to recommend is Moving Out. There's a lot of party co-op games on the Switch. Some of them are not so great, and some of them are decent, and some of them are really great. I think this is one of the really great party co-op games. This actually comes from the same company that published Overcooked, and I may be committing a sort of blasphemy to the fans of that game, but I actually like Moving Out better. In Moving Out, you are part of a moving crew that are moving things out of people's homes into a truck. Again, it's very silly, as you would expect from these kinds of games, but what really sells me on Moving Out is the strong bonding feeling you get with your co-op partners. There are many items in the game, such as fridges or couches or these very large items that you absolutely have to carry together, and it's hysterical. Just like in real life, how super stressful it is to get a large item around like a corner in a house, it's the same way in this game. You're picking up a couch and you're saying, no, you go left and you turn right, and you're trying to angle things through hallways, and of course, if that doesn't work out, you just toss something through a window or do something crazy with it. And also the throwing mechanic, you have to time it together to throw things into the moving trucks. So you're swinging things back and forth and very audibly communicating with each other, like, okay, now we're gonna throw it on the count of 3, and you're swinging it and then you throw it. It's really just stupid, crazy, silly fun. I also think it's just a lot more immediately accessible than Overcooked. I don't know if I can fully explain why, but for whatever reason, this absolutely clicked way better with my kids than Overcooked ever did. I think the simple concept of moving an object from point A to point B, it just works better. And this is currently matching its previous low price, 75% off for $6.24. All right, my next recommendation is Sine Mora EX. This is a unique recommendation on the channel because I have to confess, I'm not a big shmups fan. But every once in a while, there's a really stellar one that comes along that grabs my attention. I played this years ago when it first came out on the Xbox 360. It is an absolutely drop-dead gorgeous diesel punk themed shoot 'em up. It actually comes from the same developer as the No More Heroes series, so it's really over the top, but it really has a great art aesthetic. But what really sells me on this game is actually how it handles health. There is no health in this game. Instead, there is simply a countdown timer. Every time you get hit, you lose seconds off the timer. Every time you make a kill, you gain seconds. So there's this constant sort of pull and struggle with that timer to keep it as high as you can. I actually find this a lot more forgiving than just like a health meter with, 2 or 3 hits. Because there's always this feeling that even if I've gotten hit quite a few times, I can pull it back out by killing a few enemies and I'm back in the game. But don't get me wrong, it's still a tough game. If you don't like shmups because of the difficulty, this is not going to win you over. And it is currently 80% off for a very cheap $5.99. All right, my next recommendation is Hob the Definitive Edition. I haven't actually played this game myself, so I can't give you personal experience from it, but I've heard very good things. It is a Zelda-like adventure game. I've heard it's very cryptic in the way it sort of slowly drip feeds the plot out to you. One of those sort of mysterious games where you're not quite sure what's going on for quite a while. But like I said, I've heard good things, and it looks pretty darn good on the Switch. It did take a bit of a graphical downgrade, but if you watch side-to-side footage with the PC version, it's certainly nothing bad. And I'm sure on a Switch OLED screen, it's still gonna pop and look great. And Hob is currently 80% off for $3.99. All right, so my next 2 recommendations are the duo of Yooka Laylee and Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair. Of course, the Yooka Laylee games come from us from ex-devs at Rare. Yooka Laylee really made a big splash onto the scene years ago with a big Kickstarter. It was everyone's hope that this would sort of be the return to a Banjo-Kazooie style game. And I would say that Yooka Laylee mostly achieves that, but it's definitely rough around the corners. Not a game I would recommend at full price, but at a cheap sale price that it is at right now, I think it's worth a buy. It's currently matching its previous low of 80% off for $7.99. And of course, its sequel, Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair, rather than taking from the Rare series of the Banjo-Kazooie games, has taken from the Rare series of the Donkey Kong Country games. So instead, this game has adopted a classic side-scrolling platformer style. Certainly from a critical standpoint, this is clearly the superior of the two games. I've really heard very few criticisms about this game. This game is very unique in the fact that you can actually go straight to the final level if you want to. It's an incredibly difficult level. It is the impossible layer, and you will quickly realize that you cannot complete it right away. So essentially what you're doing by playing the other levels is gaining the ability to take hits while on the impossible layer to finally get through it. It's a really fun way to handle this style of game so you don't feel quite so limited as to when you can try to take on that bigger challenge. But this game right now is a great deal. It's currently 80% off, matching its previous low of $7.99. I really think either game at that price is going to be something you enjoy. Alright, my next suggestion is Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. There's not much to say about this. It's Nickelodeon mashed up with Super Smash Bros. What could go wrong? I played it myself. It's very solid. It's not going to replace Super Smash Bros. For you, but if you love that gameplay style and you can't wait to get more and more of those type of games, then this is certainly a worthwhile addition to your library. And it is currently at its lowest price ever for 60% off for $19.99. All right, we're down to my final two recommendations. My second to last one is Dreamscaper. I have not played Dreamscaper yet, so I can't talk from my own personal views, but this is a game I'm picking up on this sale, and I think it looks fantastic. If you're not already familiar with it, Dreamscaper is a roguelike game. Yes, again, I know there's tons of them, but that's going to be a common theme in these videos. But from my understanding, this one has a very strong narrative element just like Hades does. You play this game as a young lady with all kinds of psychological problems. And essentially the roguelike part is where you go into lucid dreaming and you are taking on these anxieties as they take on the form of monsters and creatures and all kinds of things that represent those inner demons. But what's also great is when you are awake, you are exploring a town and interacting with the individuals of this town. And that's where the ongoing story kind of unfolds. So yes, just like a roguelike, there is that sort of permadeath where you then you come back. But just like in Hades, when you come back, there are new story elements that unfold every time. So it never really feels like you've wasted your time. Again, from my understanding, what I've heard about this game, but I'm excited to try it out. And Dreamscaper is currently at its lowest price ever for 40% off for $14.99. All right, so my final recommendation, and the one I'm most excited about, is Yoku's Island Express. This game has gone on sale plenty of times, but it's the first time it's gone on sale since I started doing these videos, and I want to talk about it. I think I said in one of my past deal videos that SteamWorld Dig 2 is one of my top 3 favorite Metroidvanias alongside Hollow Knight. And I didn't say it at the time, but this is the third game in my trio of favorite Metroidvanias. This game really does the unthinkable in making a Metroidvania that combines with a pinball game. It just sounds so absurd, but the way they pull it off is like they've done this insane magic trick. Because it totally works and you don't really understand why, but it just does. You play as a little beetle who is actually the new mailman for this island. And he's rolling around his ball, going through these different pinball areas, getting bopped around and unlocking new areas just like you would in a Metroidvania. The game is absolutely drenched in this beautiful watercolor looking aesthetic. This is a great Metroidvania if you don't like one that's super stressful, full of lots of intense combat. Essentially, this game really doesn't have very many enemies. There are some little guys that might be on sort of some of the pinball boards that you kind of bust your way through. There's a final boss and a boss you encounter earlier in the game. But again, if you would like a Metroidvania that's low stress and just full of insane amounts of charm, this is going to be perfect. I can even say right now that talking about it makes me want to revisit again and play it all over again. But right now, Yoku's Island Express is matching its previous low price of 75% off for $4.99. So that is my number one recommendation this week if you haven't already bought it. All right, so I hope you enjoyed those recommendations. Now stay tuned for this deal reel to see a few more deals that might interest you.
You don't like the lights, but it's camera time. Said take the picture, but you rolled your eyes. Now I'm mortified and still terrorized. Push me behind to get me from my better side. I wanna push you back, but that's all you want. Wanna rub me up, I'm holding back. Tryna get me framed, throw me in cuffs. Said I attacked you, that's just a false truth. No need to argue, and yeah, I've had enough. You follow me anywhere I try to be alone. I find you there. There's more to me. Everywhere I try to go alone, I find you there. You follow me anywhere I try to be alone, I find you there. Oh, there's more to me, but anywhere I try to be alone, I I'm so scared to leave my house, so I cannot run free from this. Always being watched by you, and that's so inconsiderate. My privacy, does that exist? Probably haven't heard of it. Need to live a different life, cause lights and cameras are in it. Trying to find a silver lining. All I wanna do is avoid the violence. But you're here again, I'm losing it. There's no more screaming and silence. Get out my face, turn off the flash. I hate the fame, no more of that. Leave me alone or I'll collapse. I need a break, don't feel the crack. You follow me anywhere I try to be alone. I find you there. There's more to me. Everywhere I try to go alone, I find you there. Yeah, yeah. You follow me anywhere I try to be alone, I find you there. Oh, there's more to me, but anywhere I try to be alone, I find you there. I find you there.
All right, Tricksters, thanks for joining me. I hope you saw some deals that you liked. Let me know down in the comments below what you're thinking about picking up. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And until next time, I hope you have great gaming. Bye-bye, Tricksters.